Okay, we can start now.
Yes.
All right, so I will call to order the regular meeting of the West Basin Municipal Water District Engineering and Operations Committee and the special meeting of the Board of Directors. Mr. General Manager, we have a determination of a quorum.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Director Tommy Favai, Chairman Desi Alvarez,
Here.
Director Gloria Gray,
Here.
Director Don Deere. Here. Director Scott Houston. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum and we have both the chair as well as the alternate for the committee. We are ready to begin.
Okay, do we have any public comments today?
We have not received any requests for public comment, though this meeting is being held both in person and virtually. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak in a public comment, please indicate so by raising your virtual hand. And Mr. Chairman, I do not see any requests.
Okay, and I don't believe we have any presentations today.
That is correct.
We'll move on to the action calendar, and the first item is authorization to initiate solicitation for labor compliance consulting services. Mr. General Manager, would you please introduce that item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item 5A begins on packet page 4. And for the presentation, we do have Veronica Gobea, our engineering supervisor.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, directors. This item is for the authorization to initiate a solicitation process for labor compliance consulting services. The California Labor Code requires that awarding bodies like West Basin be aware of the laws that exist in regards to wages and other components regarding the performance of work. As awarding body, West Basin is registered also with the Department of Industrial Relations, which means that when we have a construction project or any other type of maintenance that falls under the threshold that DIR stipulates for registration, we register those projects. So that way our contractors or vendors can also register under that number that we provide them with and be able to provide prevailing wages to. As part of the process, this started, currently we have a labor compliance team that has been helping us, one, to maintain or contractors and ourselves educated about the labor compliance program. In 2014, West Basin issued a solicitation to request services for these particular components, and at the time, the Solis group was awarded the project. And one of their functions was to help us prepare a manual that will guide the district to ensure that the labor compliance was being applied accordingly, also to provide some training, monitoring, and also helping us in the administration of some of the projects related to labor compliance, and also those projects that are related to grants, as those require monitoring of those type of services. West Basin has an agreement with the union, Los Angeles Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council, and therefore we do have PLA that follows these rules on labor compliance. As part of the original solicitation that was done back in 2014, we received some bids, and again, as I mentioned, we had the Solis group that was awarded the project for $585,995. This included 10% contingency. The idea was like we were gonna be able to do some of those projects that were on the PLA at the time. Some of those projects did move forward a little bit faster than the other ones. And however, we have been able to utilize the money still into many other projects, which are actually located on Exhibit A on your package. Currently that agreement will expire in June 2026, and we are here to request the approval from the board to let us start working on the solicitation of new services for the labor compliance. So with this, I will read the recommendation. the recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to start the process of developing a new request for proposals for labor compliance services, an issue for solicitation to select two consulting firms for a project, for a budget pool of $450,000 for a duration of 3 years. With this, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Director Gray, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, directors. Thank you.
Director Deere? Clarification. There's that table that you have at the end of the report. What? Was, these are just labor compliance programs that they assisted on?
Mhm.
So basically, it's that the prevailing wages and DIR requirements are being met, et cetera. That's what this consultant does.
Right, so, so table A has under the column that says type, it has the nomination of LCP and PLA. So just for clarifications, PLA is directly referred to prior labor
Right.
projects. LCP are those projects that are related to grants. So, for the PLA, one of the components that the consulting firms helps us, it's also working with the unions on finding the workers and also making sure that all the union trades are notified and attend those meetings. So that we don't run into any situations where there's a, difference of opinion, whether it's a labor or, a journeyman or pipe feeder, and there's that distinction that could be very close to each other. The Solidis group and the consulting services have been able to help us to make sure that it's clarified and that the trades are, agreeable to what the terms or definitions for each are.
Okay, thank you. So Director Gray, are you okay if we move this forward?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
So we'll move on to action item 5B, authorization to initiate solicitation process for material testing and specialty inspection services. Mr. General Manager, please introduce that item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item begins on packet page 7, and this item will also be presented by Veronica Gobert.
See how lucky we are, we get you 2 in a row.
Another one now. Yes, so this is also a solicitation for material testing and specialty inspections that are mostly related to all the union projects that we have, for construction. We can enter into project labor agreement in 2014 with Los Angeles and Orange County's buildings and construction trades. The original PLA was for 5 years. That has been extended since then. But as part of the understanding on what the requirements under those crafts on the union were required, we basically found out that inspection services as well as material testers were subject to PLA law or conformance. Construction management firms typically provide inspection services and also fund material testing. And because they need to be invested into the unions when we have these type of projects, they tend to be a little bit discouraged in regards to being able to provide those EM services because they are limited on the amount of inspectors that they can utilize, and also because they need to invest into the trust fund with the unions. So to avoid this situation and make sure that we have coverage for those projects, we've been work of soliciting the services for material testing and specialty inspection. And since then, we have also used the company that was awarded in 2016 for several projects related to the PLA. I believe I put a list of projects that we have worked with. And again, that contract is going to be expiring very soon. And we understand that there's also a potential PLA agreement for construction projects that is still in the works, and we would like to request a solicitation for these type of services, so we are prepared for when those come. So with this, I will read the recommendation. The recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to start the process of developing the request for proposals and start the solicitation of the material testing and specialty testing services to award 2 companies for a total pool budget amount of $450,000 plus a 10% contingency for a total amount not to exceed $495,000 and a contract duration of 3 years. With this, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, thank you. Director Gray, do you have any questions?
Just a general question regarding all of them. Do we normally just award to 2 companies, or is that the magic number? Is not 3? Do we pick 3, or, I mean, we pick 2? Is that just something we do ordinarily?
Thank you for your question, Director. So the first time that we went to solicit the services, we only awarded 1 contract. To make it more competitive, we are looking into awarding more than 1 this time.
Do you have any follow-up question, Director Gray?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that response again,
Sure.
please?
Yes, of course. The first time that we awarded this contract was only to 1 company. And this time around, we are requesting the approval to solicit new requests for proposals. We are requesting to award 2 companies, so that way we can maintain a little bit more competition among those 2 or among those companies.
And so that's the reason why you choose 2. Okay, thank you.
Director Fave just joined us. Welcome, Director Fave. I don't know if you might have any questions on this item or not, or you're just gonna.
No,
Okay,
no question.
and Director Deer. So comment, that's what, it seems like this is specialty testing and inspection services. I understand that they get called in, notwithstanding that we have a CM on the project. CM may not be doing concrete testing or welding inspection, etc. Is one of the reasons also to have 2, so that if we have multiple projects going on, we may assign 1 inspection testing firm to 1 contract and another to another contract.
Yes, I mean, we can utilize that way, the contract itself. I think like some of the projects that we have experienced so far related to PLA have been a little bit more like lengthy and like 1 at a time. At some point, maybe we planning to 2 together, but yeah, it does help to have that ability.
Thank you. So with that, if there's no objections, we'll move that forward. Then next item is the amended contract W 3110 with Arnaz Engineering Contractors for construction of the Palos Verdes recycled water pump station project. Mr. General Manager.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item begins on packet page 10. And again, for the presentation, we have Veronica Gouveia.
See how lucky we are today? Go forward, Veronica.
Yes, so on this one, I will just give you a quick summary of the project before I go into the request. So we are happy to announce that we have been delivering water to the golf club. It's been a long run, but it's like among like all the hurdles that we have to resolve and issues. I think like there was a great team that was behind this project, and we are, now seeing the fruits of that great effort. So with that, the pipeline was awarded to Lois Construction in 2023. And the notice to proceed was issued on June 26, 2023, and the notice of completion was filed on June 9th. We had change orders And as you can see on table A, there is a summary of what the change orders were. The original award was for 8.9 million. We had a 10% contingency added to that, and we had changes. We had over $1 million credit. So the final total at the end of the project was actually less than what we awarded. So we still on that particular contract ended up with a little bit over the 1.2 million that was not spent. The pump station that was done under the Arnas Construction engineers. And that started a little bit later than the pipeline because we were basically in the process. When we started the pipeline, the pump station was still undergoing the approval of permits. So once we had everything lined up, or what we thought it was all lined up, we were able to issue the solicitation and award the contract on November 27 of 2023. And for an amount of to the low bidder, which was Arnas Construction, for an amount of $2,284,250, plus a 10% contingency. The notice to proceed was issued on February 3rd, 2024. When we were ready to start the construction, contractor went to pull up permits, and we start into these running things or events. There was like some permit delays, so we had already upfronted the review of all those plans. The electrical plans had to be resubmitted because when the contractor went to pick them up, they basically said, oh, we expired them. So we had to kind of process that. Then we have the LA County Sanitation District also asking us for a built over permit for an easement that was close by, so we had to resolve all those issues. So that resulted on the delay that we were able to start until much later that fall. So we have processed change order number 1, which was for on table B. You have a summary of that, and what I tried to do was like to put the award amount, the contingency, and the changes. CO1, CO2, those transferred to change order 1 and change order number 2. And the amounts, which is on the following column, basically summarizes what those costs are. And under the total, as you can see, there's been 2 change orders that were processed. We're still processing change order number 2. We're finalizing that. But essentially, those 2 change orders were able to be covered in the 10% contingency. And again, some of those change order number 1 was for unforeseen conditions, utilities that we found under the location where we were going to be installing the pump station. We're in the park, so there was some electrical conducts that we had to relocate that were not shown on the plan. And also, we also had a delay on the switchboard due to material supplier issues and some scheduling. So there was like some delays that we encountered there, and also some changes into system testing and programming. Bottom line, we have, a final change order that right now is exceeding the 10% contingency, and it's spilling over $75,000, which makes the entire changes as at 13%. We only had a 10% contingency as part of the original approval. So our request here is to allow us to basically make those modifications to our contract so we can amend the contract with Arnas accordingly. So with this, I will read the recommendation. One thing I want to mention is these amounts are included on the budget. So we're not requesting a budget increase. In fact, if we are within our budget, it's just like the allocation where it was, it's being basically reallocated. And with this, I'll read the recommendation. The recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to increase the budget to the pump station construction by an additional $75,000 for a new amount not to exceed $2,587,675 and amend contract W3110 with Arnas Engineering Contractors once the negotiations have been completed. With this, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Director Fave, do you have any questions?
Comment, thank you, Alvarez. I just wanted to say that thank you for like breaking it up in, in the summary to explaining the story. Unforeseen, things that happen during construction or delays or anything like that. So I really appreciate how you broke it down in the summary, how much the amount was in the budget. So we didn't go over budget, only this within the budget. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Director Gray, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Director Deer? Okay, so on the pipeline project, you had about $1 million savings. Right?
On the pipeline, we had savings because, yeah, we didn't utilize.
So that's to your point at the end that the overall budget is not being increased, we're only increasing the contract amount with the contractor that built the pump station. Which is all good, thank you. So when is the pump station really gonna be done? I know you mentioned we're serving water. But when are we gonna finish and when are you gonna file the notice of completion?
Yes, so we're looking to be done at the end of March, this March. Again, the pump station is already delivering recycled water to the golf club. So that was a success. And right now we're just making sure that the runs, the other pump stations that it's also receiving water, that all the settings are complete. Final touch-ups, those are very minor. Those are okay. But yeah, it's like we're looking at coming to an end at this month.
Okay, so Arnaz Construction, how much real work do they have left to do?
Very minor. It's just basically finalizing, making sure that all these setting points doesn't need any additional change. And making sure that pump station, we have the Lagos Seco pump station is in series with the Torrance Booster pump station. So we're just making sure that all of those are communicating well with each other under any circumstance. We have already run the pump stations on auto. So right now they're on auto. So the minute that the golf club says 6 a.m., I want water, they get the water and then, it closes right at the time. So I think we did a lot of programming to make sure that all those components were all set up. And right now we're making sure that the other Torrance Booster pump station is well set up for any point that may need to be modified. And again, in regards to the actual, finishing of the physical components, there is some model that just needs to be exchanged because we got the wrong one from the provider. So they're just switching up, but that the contractor already has that equipment. So that will be very quickly. So we're talking about maybe few days of actual work by Arnaz to do that. It can be done, easily accomplished this month.
Okay, so there's an understanding that they're done, they're basically done, this is it. We're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah. And we're planning on doing a close-up at the end, of the project to give you the overall, summary of all the events and all, the whole project.
So if there's no objection, we'll move this forward.
No objection.
Then, moving on, we'll go to item 5D, the agreement to award a supply generation electricity.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it should be noted that we are clicking on all cylinders. We're moving through the agenda very quickly. I'm pretty impressed. This is one of my favorite presentations. We had a chance to do it last year. And of course, I love the conversation. And so this item begins on packet page 14. And for the presentation, we have Jason Kung, our operations analyst 2.
Good afternoon, directors. Thanks, EJ. We'll just jump straight into the presentation on page 17. You might recall we approached the board about a year ago when our contract was originally ending after we entered this direct access program where we start buying generation energy from a different provider other than SCE. And we've been monitoring that term was for about 15 months. We're about 12 months in. We've been monitoring the energy market pretty closely, but every month or so we'll do a pulse check. And we've been waiting for a critical point in the market where we see kind of a dip and we see the rates start to rise again. So we've seen like a slight downturn right up until recent events, and we're seeing them climb again. So we thought it was appropriate that we approach the board with some new options. Our contract goes until June, so this will be a start date for a new one. But we wanted to kind of cover our performance in the program so far in the last 12 months, in combination with the previous 3 years before that, and what are some options that you guys can get from it. So overall, next slide, please. Overall, we wanted to quantify how the performance is and do our best to estimate how much we've saved so far since entering the program. And to do that, we kind of had to understand our bill a lot closely. So I wanted to walk you through the process that we took and some of the assumptions that we made to understand our bill. So we typically buy generation from SCE, which is on the left-hand side. We've gone to elect to purchase that from somebody else, and that's part of the direct access program. That process is called unbundling your service from SCE. You still pay SCE for the power poles, for the wildfire fund, all of that. They're public purpose programs, but you're going to purchase your generation energy from somewhere else, and it's probably going to be generated somewhere across the grid in the U.S. Next slide, please. The typical bill, we really need to understand what would have happened had we not left SCE, right? If we had continued purchasing all of our energy from SCE, had to kind of create our own bill a little bit. So this is the typical breakdown of how much goes to generation over, your demand charges. There's 8% going to transmission on the right-hand side. Wildfire's got 5%. Public purpose programs at 4%. Distribution, so your power lines, things like that, maintenance on that, 37%. And a lot of it is just generating the energy. So we're just paying the right-hand side right now. We've been doing that for about four years so far. Next slide, please. SCE is also very clever in their market. I'm sorry, their pricing structure, where they also want to capture how much energy you're using at a particular part of the time, right? You guys have heard of this. It's called time of use. It depends on weekdays and weekends and holidays. And there's different seasons as well. There's a summer period where things are more expensive. Winter's a little bit lower, and there's different categories for each one: super off-peak, mid-peak, on-peak. So you can see how it gets a little bit complicated. We needed just one rate, whereas all this effort is to boil down everything into one rate compared to what we had, which is our fixed rate. So these are some of the assumptions we've made. Next slide, please. After that, I wanted to kind of cover real quick some basics on demand charges. So the way that it not only matters when you use the energy, but how much at that time. So if we measure everything in kilowatt hours, if you use a 100-watt bulb on the left-hand side for 10 hours, that's 1 kilowatt-hour range. If you use 10 bulbs rated at 100 watts for just 1 hour, that's still the same amount of energy, but it's going to take a lot more infrastructure to get you that amount of power. And SCE is going to capture that cost as well. So that's part of your demand charges. That makes up a good chunk of our bill. Next slide, please. So here's an example of what our bill breaks down to. I'm sure you've seen this on your residential bill as well. The top hand side is the green, is how we use our energy, and the generation is how much we've used. So typically they're not really 50-50. You can see there's a big chunk of charges on the top hand side, but most of it goes into generation, like we saw with that bar graph. Next slide, please. Here are some of the rates that we pulled from SCE's publishing. They have different rates for different times of the day and different seasons. So we needed to boil that down into one rate. Next slide, please. Here they are graphically side by side. So this is June 2024. Our fixed rate is on the right-hand side. I'm going to talk in megawatt hours because it's a lot easier on the tongue. $86 per megawatt hour is what we pay right now. And SCE has different rates for different times of the day. And to kind of boil it down to one more like singular number, if you can skip to 2 slides, please. That's the load curve for ECL. We're just looking at ECL currently, but we needed to figure out how much time we're spending in each of these sections. So this is just one day for winter time. You can see we spent a majority of our time in the green section, not really much on the mid-peak. That's just kind of how we use our energy here at the district, just for ECL. But a good chunk of it is, in the middle of the night. That's when most of our customers are allowed to water for irrigation purposes. We took this graph and kind of got an average for the entire year last year. Next slide, please. and we came up with these percentages. So we spend in the summertime 14% on the on-peak, 6% of our time in the mid-peak, and 80% of our time on the off-peak for the summer side. For the winter, we have 21% on the mid-peak, 47 on the off-peak, which is the dark green that you guys saw earlier, and then the 33% on the super off-peak. So after we have that, we can multiply this by our bundled rates. I might lose you in a little bit, but next slide, please. We can get like different rates for different seasons, and then I can blend those together again, compare it to this $86 on the right, and we get this nice graph. Next slide, please. Where we compare one number out of the 6 or 9 or however many years we're looking at, that blue line compared to the orange. So you guys might remember this from last year. Our orange line is the stable, steady West Basin curve. And the blue line is if we were to purchase our energy from SE. Anytime the blue line is below our orange one, we're good. We're in the green. Anytime, I'm sorry, any other way around. Anytime the blue line is above our orange line, we're good. Anytime the orange line is above the blue, that means we're paying a higher rate than what we would have paid SE. That is the case, but it is notable to say, to go back to SE to purchase energy. So it's a very difficult process. It is possible, but they've kind of put you on market rates for a little bit. These rates are for customers that they've already anticipated for 20 some odd years. They buy their energy way ahead of time, and that's how they're able to give you a rate that you can predict. But yeah, anytime we're above the curve, that's when we're a little bit in the negative. If we're below the blue curve, that means we're in the positive. So you can see the summer months are very expensive, right? But we have a nice steady curve. I wanted to zoom in on, so this is the first 3 years of direct access. Next slide, please. This is our current 15-month contract. So the scale is a little bit different than before because we're kind of zooming in on just one plateau. This is when we locked in our rate last year at $86.25. So you can see the summer month is a little bit more expensive than what we locked in. You kind of see that quick rise at the beginning. That's when we locked it in March. We didn't quite save as much as we thought we would. And you can see throughout the rest of the year, the SE rate is lower than what we locked in. So that's for the last 15 months. I'm sorry, 12 months. Next slide, please. Here's everything together. This is the last 4 years since we've entered the program. And next slide, please. I've shaded kind of the areas of what we care about. Previously, we presented to the board last year that we've saved $865,000 since entering the program. This time we're bringing it to you. We've eaten some of those savings up, and we're at 527. So we're still net positive, but this most recent season hasn't been that great. So we've kind of ate up into that a little bit. That's not the only component of the bill. Like I mentioned, there's a ton more. So this is just the generation side. Next slide, please. I wanted to also cover kind of the demand as well. Like that's how we use our energy. That also plays a big part. You can see the demand charge that we've seen just for the bills that we have available so far is about $57 per megawatt hour. And the generation on an average is 72 dollars per megawatt hour compared to the 86. So the 86 is just that one portion, right? We still pay the demand. Next slide, please. I wanted to also show you the demand versus the generation side by side and what portion that is. Generation is good portion, like we mentioned, 47% of the bill typically. And so today with the schedule, next slide, please. Today is where we have recommendations for the committee and the board. And then July is our proposed contract start date. We did something a little bit different this time around. And we worked with an energy broker to grab multiple bids from the only authorized energy providers in California. So they're vetted by the CPUC, but there's more than one. I think there's 4 total. We grabbed bids from 3. And so next slide, please. Here are those results that we received. You can see our current term on the left, that's the $86.25. And then I've highlighted for you guys the lowest bid out of the ones that we have on the right-hand side. They're separated into 3 different sections, so 12 months, 24 months, and 36 months. I did want to also note that Constellation in the orange is a little bit different than the green and blue for this quote. The swing, if I can mention that real quick, or touch on that real quick. The swing allows West Basin to increase their usage by 100% or decrease our usage by 100% without any penalty. So, for example, with NRG on the 25% swing, that means you can use up to 125% or 75% before you start incurring any charges. So I did want to note that they're not quite exactly apples to apples. This is as of March 11th. Now we got some new rates for you hot off the presses. And that's the next slide. You'll see that there's one missing, which is BP Energy. They decided not to bid as they saw they were the highest one last time. And there's quite a small mistake. I highlighted the wrong one for you on 12 months. But now NRG is at 100% swing. So they saw, hey, everybody else is doing 100, let's do 100 too. And they were able to be a little bit more competitive and come down to $69.97 as of this morning. So that's the one. NRG is the provider that we're going to recommend. But for the term, we're actually going to recommend the 24 months. I know the board's preference the last time around was to do a shorter term. We still feel that we had really good results with the 3-year term that we had before. We're not recommending the 3 years this time, but we're still recommending a longer term. That way we don't go back out to the market and see what's available as often. I feel that every time we go back out to the market, the prices are a little bit more volatile, and we want to lock in for a long period of time. Don't want to expose the district to more volatility than is necessary. And the biggest takeaway I would say for this process is to create a predictable and budgetable number for our district. It's something that we can count on and that we can budget against. And these dollars are not small at all. 1 cent is equal to $5,000 every year. $1 is equal to $50,000 in our budget every year. So market changes all the time, but that's our recommendation to do 24 months. And the next slide will show you those side by side. So NRG is the lowest this time around. Our recommendation specifically, I'll read it right now, that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a commodity master agreement with NRG for the supply of electrical service, with pricing to be established based on prevailing market conditions at the time of execution, for a rate not to exceed $75.50 per megawatt hour for a 24-month term. So the price may change from now until Monday when we execute. And so we wanted to kind of allot for that. Market is a little volatile at the moment. But NRG is our current incumbent and has the best rate so far. You have to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Director Fave, do you have any questions?
None at this time.
Director Gray, do you have any questions? Director Gray, any questions? Director Deere, any
No.
questions? No. Can we go back to slide number 14? So explain that slide for me, please.
Sure. Our rate is in the yellow. I'm sorry, the orange. We can kind of see that quick jump that we did in March. And we locked in at $86.25, where the SE generation rate briefly stepped above that for the summer season, but for most of the winter, it's been a lot longer than that.
So at least for this year, 2025 to 2026, the year, I'm assuming this is for the current year, right?
That's correct.
We're paying more for electricity than would have been the case that we said with SCE.
That's correct. If we had not left 4 years ago, if we had gone back today, we would pay market rates, which changes every year.
Yeah, but we're locking in a contract for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. So we locked in a contract for 3 years.
First time.
The first
Originally.
term, yeah.
The first time.
Yeah.
And that got us to this point, or is this the contract we awarded last year for just 1 year?
Correct. 15 months.
Right, and we were projecting at that time that it was gonna be less expensive than going with SCE.
Yes.
If, if we were not, if we're still with the SE on the way.
Correct. Yeah, we were bundled back with NC. That's what we were.
Alright, so we ended up signing a contract, though, that we're paying more. Quite a bit more overall, in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, based on the amount of power we use.
Yeah, I also do want to mention that their savings that we've calculated also includes a power charge and difference adjustment. So we call it a PCIA charge. That's the charge that SCE leverages against their customers if you leave them. Because they've said, we thought you were going to be a customer forever. And we bought our energy for you 20 years in advance. And now we have nowhere to sell it. That's their thing. So they said, okay, well, all that extra energy, we're going to sell it to the market. If we lose out on it, then you're going to have to pay us back. So that includes some of that in there as well. So it's not just the generation charge, but also the PCIA
So
adjustment.
that whatever penalty is included in it. But it's still less, it would have been still less than the current contract that we're paying on.
I'm sorry, one more time.
And, we're paying more money under the current contract than we would have paid had we stayed with SCE, including the penalty and the SCE rate.
Just for the last 15 months, yes. But over the last 4 years, we've been pretty profitable.
Okay, but I'm just looking at the current situation, and so, because that's where we're at. So how do we know we're not gonna find ourselves in the same situation again? Because we went through this exercise a year ago, and the recommendation was that we would end up paying less than the Edison rate, but the Edison rate with a penalty in it is lower than what we're paying. And what guarantees, if any, are there that we're gonna be ahead of the game by locking in the rate with NRG?
The only guarantee I can provide, because the market is what the market is that generally speaking, over the last 30 years or so, energy has gone up in cost.
Everything's gone up, I agree.
That's correct. And so locking it in for a determined amount of time shields the districts from that volatility and helps us be a little bit more predictable for our budget.
I'm not disputing that locking it in and that rates are gonna go up. I'm just disputing is, locking in anything for long term, because then you're buying into one party providing your power or whatever the commodity is. And so you're locking into that. And there may be other parties providing the same commodity that you then don't have access to without breaking an existing contract and paying whatever penalty to get out of it. And in the case of power, it's very volatile. And you explained all the good reasons for it, and will probably be more volatile this coming year because of what's happening in the world. So I'm not convinced that locking in a long-term contract or a longer-term contract is beneficial. Probably short-term increments are the most beneficial, so you can see your position. And if it's convenient to stay with your current provider, you will. Yes, you run the risk that even your current provider is going to charge you a little bit more, but you also have available to you the fact that you can take advantage of whatever those fluctuations are. So make the case for me why you would want to lock this up for 2 years versus 1 year, when we know there's volatility. We know if you look at the last year that it wasn't the best decision to have made. It cost us several $100,000. I don't follow the logic for longer term contracts. In general,
Absolutely. I see where you're going with this. Our energy broker, who's been in the business for nearly 30 years, has the same sentiment, but wants to add and educated me on it as well, is that The 1-year option may look attractive, and it is an attractive number because it's even lower than the first time we locked in, which was at $81.67. But we have no guarantees of what the price will be when we come out at the end of the tunnel at the next 1-year rate. They seem to think that it would be even higher than the 74.87 that we're suggesting. So yes, we might lock it in for the 70 this time around, but maybe the jump when we come back out might be a little bit higher at 80, maybe 81. And so that's the risk. But we're happy to entertain any of the terms that are available. Staff is going with 24 months. We've had good success with the longer term with the first time we tried it. We can definitely come back at the end of the term to see how we've done and maybe readjust if that's not the committee's recommendation. But yeah, that's why we wanted to provide different options for you guys to consider.
And right now, we're looking only at Constellation and NRG. Those are the two providers, and NRG being the more competitive rate.
That's correct.
Where is Edison's rate today? Compared to these, because these are today's rates, off the press, as you said, as of March 18th.
As of March 18th, that's correct. I actually don't have SC's rate in front of me available. I would have to reach out to our rep to get that, but I can definitely come back to the board and provide that information.
That will be market rates.
Yeah. That would be market rates, which is a lot higher than.
Will be a lot higher.
It just, so that we know kind of what we're doing. You got the comparison here, it's always good to say, and here's your other alternative, why we've gone in this.
Yeah, I would also like to add, not only does SCE, you have the pleasure of buying market rates when you go back to them, but you also have the pleasure of locking in market rates for, I believe it's 18 months until they can get you back in their pre-procured energy programs. So not only are you exposing yourself to liability for 18 months, but it is an option, absolutely.
Just show the comparison.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't think they're gonna compare well, but I don't know either, because I don't know what the rate is today. I'm not, I think this should come back to the board, when it comes back, it should come back with a 1-year contract extension. As opposed to 2 years. Okay? Are we okay with that?
I just got a couple questions before we, so you mentioned, so if you're looking at that slide on, page 22, you mentioned the recommendation. Are these recommendations also the 6 months? Is that a recommendation to us, the board, as well?
Currently, that's not the recommendation, but the board is welcome to change it to recommendation.
So those are the three options, and the recommendation is to go with basically the.
And then, my second question is, do you know why BP Energy backed away of not bidding?
They're not willing to accept the apples to apples comparison of the 100% swing. So I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I apologize if I didn't. Energy actually increased their risk to 100% swing to match Constellation's proposal as well. So those are clear apples to apples. BP Energy doesn't have a 100% swing option, and they saw they were losing, so they decided just not to bid.
And then we currently have agreement with NRG. Currently, we getting it?
And I will say for the record, all three of these options are way lower than the 86. So
No, they are, and the net savings annually for the 12 months is actually better if you go for just the 12 month. We do run a little bit of a risk, but there's a lot of volatility in this market. And right now, everybody's looking at the instability because of the energy situation worldwide. That probably will stabilize in a year. Hopefully, God forbid, but we could be in a war, in a 4-year war versus a 2-month war, or whatever it's gonna be. So I'm more comfortable with the 12 months, and your net savings are a little bit more if you go with a 12-month option than the 24-month option, for the 12 months. Okay,
I think we're gonna discuss this with the full board.
well, the recommendation would be to bring it back to the full board with for the, awarded for the 12-month option to NRG.
And then also, the SCE, where the SCE market rates are.
And they will just give that, as information, additional information. But the recommendation is to go with the 12-month extension.
And the rates as published here will most
Well,
likely be
yeah, you'll
changed
have
as
to
well.
update it as of Tuesday.
Okay.
Because they do,
They change.
yeah, they change daily.
Good.
Okay, all right.
So just to confirm, so the recommendation from the committee is the 12-month option, but you'd like to see that presented with the
I
market
just would
rate.
like the additional information because when you award it at whatever rate that is that day, so you'll have to update it. And then in that update, just information wise, what is the SCE rate?
I just want to make sure that we correctly update the board memo and the committee recommendation as well.
Thanks to the board, yeah, because, but whatever the board memo says, it's gonna be the rate and the day you sign it, right?
Correct. It's the term from the committee that I want to make sure that we get noted.
Okay, so moving on. Item 5E, authorization to procure reverse osmosis membrane for the Juanita Melinda McDonald Carson Regional Water Recycling Plant. Mr. General Manager.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item begins on packet page 39. For the presentation, we do have Mario Batista, our engineering supervisor.
Good afternoon, directors. So as noted, this item is for the procurement of RO membranes for our Carson plant, which in addition to serving nitrified water, serves low pressure boiler feed to the Marathon refinery. As you may recall, in October 2025, West Basin entered into a new agreement with Tesoro Refining and Marketing Company, which owns the Marathon refinery. And one of the changes that was made compared to the previous agreement was the inclusion of more stringent water quality requirements for our product water, which even increases the criticality of having consistent treatment performance at that facility. So the Carson facility has a total of 4 RO trains that are associated with the production of low pressure boiler feed. And currently 2 RO trains worth of membranes are placed in order to meet the new water quality requirements. I do want to note that the additional costs associated with increased RO membrane replacements as a direct result of these more stringent water quality requirements were something that were contemplated and accounted for in the development of the fixed fee that was included in the new agreement. So with that in mind, West Basin released an invitation for quotes on February 10th for 2 trains worth of membranes plus spares and ancillary components. West Basin has a pre-qualification program where we have 3 membranes that have been pre-qualified based on 5,000 hours of verified performance, and those membranes are listed in table 1 of the staff report. And those membrane manufacturers are Toray, LG, and Hydronautics. As a part of this solicitation, we also surveyed the respondents to indicate whether their products were Build America, Buy America Act compliant, as well as whether they were eligible for the standard 3% discount associated with being a small or local business enterprise. Another item that we added in recognition of the criticality of getting back into compliance with our water quality obligations with the refinery agreement was the inclusion of a delivery date incentive. So typically with membrane procurement, we have the requirement that the membranes be delivered within 60 days of the execution of the purchase order. The way we structured our incentive is for every day less than that 60-day requirement that a vendor is willing to commit to in terms of the delivery date, we would apply a 0.25% a discount to the evaluation cost of their quote. So for instance, if a vendor was willing to commit to a 40-day delivery after the execution of a purchase order, that's a 20-day reduction. 20 days times that 0.25%, that's a 5% discount they get just for evaluation purposes only. That's how that was structured. In February 26th is when we received our quotes. So we received two quotes, one from LG and one from Torre. A breakdown of the quotes that we received is included in table 2 of the staff report. And I'd just like to note that Torre's product is confirmed to be Build America, Buy America Act compliant. LG did receive the local business enterprise discount because they're located in Torrance. Probably most notably, Torre committed to providing delivery of their membranes within 1 day after the execution of a purchase order. So a 59-day reduction on the overall delivery that we typically get, which translated to a 14.75% discount being applied for evaluation purposes. So while the actual quotation costs, LG was $26,000 cheaper, which is roughly about 6% of a cost difference when you incorporate both the LE that LG received and the discount for delivery incentive that Torre was eligible for. The lowest evaluative cost ended up being Torre. So that's why the recommendation is that the board authorize the general manager to procure 852 reverse osmosis membranes and associated parts from Torre Membrane USA Inc. for a total not to exceed amount of $396,200.86, including the shipping and sales tax. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I think this is your first presentation.
Yes.
Very good. Did a good job. All right, Judge Fave, any questions?
I think they made you happy. Don't think about the requirements and everything. So great job. Great job on the presentation.
All right. Director Gray and Director Deere? Okay, I have a question just or clarification. So, or two, the delivery discount, how does that work? I understand what you said, they get 0.25% for every early day. So multiply it in this case for 59 days. So did you end up subtracting that from their bid amount?
For evaluation purposes.
And had LG Water come in and let's say they, instead of 60 days, 59 days, they would have been at 28 days or 29 days. Then they would only get 7.5% or approximately. And that they would have lowered that price, their price.
Evaluation.
That's correct.
Okay, so the percentages are applied to the bid price. And, okay, I just wanted, because that's an interesting way of doing it. I've never seen it done that way, but I like it.
Yeah, we were trying to make sure we were capturing, incentivizing it in a way that was commensurate with kind of the risk that we're potentially, hedging against by not being contractually compliant. And then also looking at, we have a lot of historical information for what our spreads are like in terms of the bids we receive for membranes. So we also want it to be within that range, right? We don't want a discount that really exceeds the spread of what we typically do. So that's kind of how we.
One thing to note is that in the memo that we didn't want them to make unrealistic promises. So we did put in a liquidated damage amount of like $8,600 for each day if they were end up not able to meet that delivery deadline. So they were aware of that as well.
Thank you. That is my next question. But now what happens if they don't deliver?
Got you.
Okay, so, this is all good. The only other comment / question is Torre Membrane is a US manufacturer. And so they assemble the membranes here or all the components of the membranes are made here?
My, they are made here, they're made at a facility, or they're assembled here.
Yes.
They're assembled at a facility in Vista, so San Diego County. I can't speak to where all the constituent components, like the membrane itself, likely that's not domestic. However, it is enough to meet the requirements. The way that the questionnaire was written is this product compliant with the terms of Build America, Buy America? So I can confirm at least that much. It's compliant with the BABA Act.
They are purchasing the raw material from
So the components are not American made.
all of them.
This is the problem with Buy American Act. You can drive a Mack truck to it. Is there anybody manufacturing membranes today in the United States?
Not to the complete extent that you're looking at. The flat sheet membrane, which is the chemistry layer that actually does the separation, typically, and I believe this is the case for all manufacturers, is manufactured offshore. In the case of Toray, being a Japanese company, that comes out of Japan. They ship massive rolls of flat sheet membrane to San Diego. In San Diego, they slice and dice that flat sheet, put together the elements of the modules themselves, and then, of course, perform the fiberglassing and the final construction there. So there's a significant amount of work that's done, not only in America, but in California. But a lot of that chemical portion of it, frankly, even if they were doing it in the US, they wouldn't be doing it in California.
No, but they'd be doing it in the US. So the membrane portion per se is not made in America. And right now, there are no manufacturers for any of the membranes.
To our knowledge, I will say that, the history of West Basin, specifically on treating recycled water with reverse osmosis membranes, they're not all created equal from a performance standpoint. And so we have historically used a qualification process whereby a product has to demonstrate 5,000 hours of acceptable performance, specifically on our water, because there have been many products over the years that have claimed to be able to perform to a certain extent, and they don't, and that ends up costing us higher life cycle costs in energy and cleaning chemicals. And so we only currently have 3 products that are considered qualified for use in our application. Staff is going to be working with Jacobs to develop a program to qualify more products, because there are more products on the market available today. But right now, we only have 3 qualified. To our knowledge, none of those 3 do, soup to nuts element construction here in the US. It's generally flat sheet elsewhere, and then construction here in the States, at least for Toray.
Okay. So as we move forward, I've repeated myself and but we can continue to look and encourage manufacturing of membranes in the United States so that all the components, not just the assembly, would be made in America.
As we develop the qualification testing for the future products, we can certainly put that as a priority, right? If there are products, we're going to have a lot of elements to select from on, but limited space to do testing, at least initially. And so we can certainly give any firm that can offer complete construction here in the US a priority in testing those elements and qualifying before we consider others.
And in this case, because of the criteria and the bid specifications and the way they were structured, Toray became the effective low bidder. But had we not used that delivery discount option, there would have been a higher bidder.
That's correct.
In my opinion, though, I would have still favored awarding to them just because of the made in American component, even though it's not 100% made in America. All right, with that, we will move this forward. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And I think that brings us to the information calendar. So, Mr. General Manager,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item 6A begins on packet page 45. The only item we have is the engineering operations update and quarterly water production and asset presentation. And so for this presentation, we do have Erica Owens, our Assistant General Manager, Susanna Lee, our Manager of Engineering, and Jeremiah Shea, our Operations Analyst 2.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. This month, members of the committee, we are going to talk about the water production and asset management topics. You'll recall that while the presentation is going to be focused on those categories, there is a written description and discussion of all of our CIP projects, the status updates within the body of the memo. Those are there for your availability and for your interest. And if you have any questions, we're happy to field those. But we're also ready to move forward with the presentation focused on production and asset management.
okay,
All right. You go to the next slide. So just a quick look ahead to coming months. We are anticipating bringing an award for sodium hypochlorite tanks for the JMM CR WRP next month. We're also anticipating an agreement award to replace the Torrance Refinery water recycling plant, nitrified motor control center. We are very likely going to defer the Torrance microfiltration feasibility analysis another month or so. We're still in the selection process, and I don't think we'll be ready to bring that before the board in the April cycle. And then just as a heads up, it may look odd that we are talking about the Veolia O&M contract that expired back in August, here come April. But what we found is there's a number of closeout costs that they put to us at the very last minute of that contract, many of which were incurred during that contract period. And so staff has been working diligently to validate those, to verify that they are accurate and appropriate, that they actually did incur. And we think we've whittled it down to a number that we just want to share with the board to make sure the board is aware that that cost is there. And then, of course, since that contract is expired, I think we'll need board approval to pay that plan. That will be the conclusion of that contract once that payment. I'll pause there for questions.
so how much more money do they want from us?
About $280,000.
280? That's a lot of mice.
5,000 is beyond the contract term. That they presented to us that they have pay ahead, just to keep some of those recurring in to make sure that there's no disruptions purposes. So that's what we're discussing next month.
All will be revealed in April.
All right, keep going.
All right. And then, of course, in this presentation, we're also going, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong slide. Next month, we also expect to have that information item that Veronica mentioned, being a closeout and summary update for the PV project as a whole, including both the pipeline and the pump station. And then, of course, our quarterly update for the CIP program and the technical planning. Next slide, please. Here today, though, sorry, one more. Oh. Okay.
That was the first.
I missed it entirely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as EJ mentioned, we're going to have Susanna talk about production. Then we're going to pass it over to Jeremiah to speak to an energy program that we've been looking at. And then Susanna will wrap it up again with asset management and maintenance activities that have been occurring at the plant. I would just like to note before Susanna gets started that you'll see a couple of different or new slides in the production layout. I had asked staff to, with very little notice, to try to liven those up or freshen them up a bit. And I think they've done a good job, but this is the first time that the committee is seeing some of them. So if you have thoughts or input, we'd love to hear it, and we can adjust this as needed. So with that, I'll hand it over to Susanna.
Yeah, just to add to that, like we're looking at this, I guess, special focus presentations. We might be changing up the KPIs discussions and asset management discussion as well. So as the first, we are looking at a new slide on production. So can move to the next slide. So I know we've been talking about budgets and we mentioned about what we can do, achieve or not in terms of recycled water. So we thought that this will give a fresh look on looking back at a couple years or few years, what our recycled water production has been since 2021-22. And we know that the main issues from 21-22 up till probably last year, good part of last year, it was heavily affected by the Hyperion upsets. And so we were significantly lower in terms of production. And started last year, we start seeing stable stable water quality, and then we finally got a lot of rehab done for like pumps and motors and whatnot. So we're able finally to wrap up. Obviously, the current year that the major impact to our production is there are a couple of line breaks that prevented us from ramping up on the barrier. We had a phase 5 PLC project that also required us to really lower our productions at the beginning of this fiscal year. So overall, the 25-26 budget, we originally looking at 35,000 plus, but we projected for the year end of about 33,000 acre feet. And for majority of the 2,400 plus reduction is mainly due to the barrier productions, the reductions that we incurred during the early part of the fiscal year. And so hopefully this next few months, if we're able to catch up, we might go a little bit about that 32.9. We will see, because we just had an issue last couple of days with the barrier product pump, but we did bring it back. So cross our fingers. And so looking at what we can achieve for 26-27, I believe that what we're looking at 34,432 is a realistic number and achievable number. In order to get up to the 36,000, we will need a few pumps that we have pulled for the barrier pump stations right now. We do not have a timeline on when those will be back. So I'm comfortable still with that 34 or 32 numbers for recycled water. So with that, we can look at the next slide. This is just a snapshot on the last 3 months of productions. As you can see, our barrier was still the head major differences in terms of productions. So because we just came out, the county had just finished with all their leaks and repair up until like middle of December. So we finally able to ramp up beyond our current year. Barrier budgeted production is roughly about 11 MGD. So we're currently at 12.2 MGD. So hopefully, the February on, we should hopefully help us to catch up in the productions. Torrance Nitrify was also one of the differences. They had a little bit of a turnaround that impacted our productions. And so overall, we're looking at around 11% below budget. And the next slide, please. This is just overall the 3 months. Instead of individual months, we just combine the quarter sales and year to date. What is compared to last fiscal year. So for the most part, like all the different product lines are comparable to last fiscal year 24-25, with the exception of disinfectant tertiary. Next slide.
Yes.
I was just going to throw this out there. I just received data the other day, and when you talk about our production delivery to the barrier, Obviously, we're not quite where we had budgeted for, but I would say on the bright side, it's worth noting that the West Coast barrier demands, it's 32% below last fiscal year. So how much water they're putting into the barrier is 32% below that. And for the first time, and this is probably the highest in quite some time, I'll do some more research, 84.2% of the supply that was placed in the barrier came from ECL, was recycled water, which is a pretty decent amount of water. It's just being impacted by that reduction in amount that they're putting in the barrier. So I would say that overall, we're trending in the right direction, but we are being impacted by the reduction.
We were just saying the next slide will highlight.
Oh.
But since you went there,
Yeah.
because I would have come back to this anyway, so let me do this now. If I look at slide number 8, page 57, the barrier production or sale for 24, 25 and 25, 26 are about the same. But if I go back to slide 6, page 55, seems like the barrier production or sales was quite a bit more than 25, 26. What am I?
I think what you're not seeing in the 25, 26 bar chart is the projected values remaining for the barrier. So that green bar in 25, 26.
I just figured it out. I was looking at the wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. My fault. Sorry about that.
No, so if we want to go back and finish the discussion on the barrier, we are good to know that WRD has an internal goal of, I think about 75% for both barriers. So right now, the West Coast barrier is carrying to help WRD to meet that goal right now, because the Dominguez Gap barrier is not, the recycled water is not high enough. So.
Why is that? What's happening in Dominion?
Mario might know.
I don't know what's happening at the Dominguez.
I don't know in terms if there's an immediate cause to it. Broadly, in terms of the reason they can't provide a maximum amount of recycled water to that, to Dominguez Gap, is because they have a hydraulic limitation. They have a construction project that's currently ongoing where they're going to make a second connection to the barrier, because their one connection point from the water recycling plant in Terminal Island to the barrier limits how much flow they can send their entire. If there's a near-term issue outside of that,
So it's a hydraulic capacity issue, or maybe a hydraulic capacity issue as opposed to a plant issue at the Terminal Island plant.
that's what's going to stop them. There's definitely a hydraulic issue that stops them from furnishing 100% recycled water to the Dominguez Gap. I don't know if there's any other issues that are ongoing exacerbating that.
We'll be meeting with them tomorrow. We can ask again.
Just out of curiosity, because
Well, I would just ask Mario to speak to the current MGD available through the single connection versus what they expect to have available through the second connection.
Sure, yeah. They're currently capped at, I believe it's right around 5 MGD. The typical demand for Dominguez Gap is closer to 7, I believe, historically. They'll be able to, and then it fluctuates higher than that on occasion. And so they will actually, with the second connection, be able to get at least 7 with the ability to go up to some of their, forget what the hydraulic limitation increases it up to, like, say 9 MGD, I must be better turn, but at least 7 MGD. So typically 100% of what their standard average demand is once they make that connection.
Most importantly, directors, from the graph in front of you, and I can't say this enough times or loudly enough, but in years past, that was probably a mostly blue graph representing more potable water going into the barrier than recycled water. And I think the key to our budget discussions, or whether we are or not hitting our budget volumes, it's not through limitations at West Basin like it has been historically. We have a supply that's ready and available. A lot of our lower numbers, production numbers for the barrier this year are directly attributed to decisions being made by the county as far as what volumes they're injecting. But we're ready to serve even more when they're ready.
There will be,
And that's the other issue. So where are we with the county? I know you guys theoretically meet every month or whatever, but can't we just get over that and tell the county this is what we want to do?
they also have, planned, well, we have projects in the coming year, so we are in constant discussion with them to make sure that we are going to maximize recycled water. So we'll have those constant discussions.
Yeah, I would say, and don't let me get too far ahead of myself, Susanna, but we have heard a sentiment from county staff.
Yeah.
That buffer, that thin line of blue potable that they have insisted on continuing to inject, that they are open to actually just going to 100% recycled water.
We've done it for like maybe less than a month before they had issue with leaks or we had leaks on our side. So we will revisit that possibility tomorrow.
Yeah, I still don't understand why. I mean, what's the real difference if I put in recycled versus imported water? Why does it make a difference to them?
It's a confidence thing.
But assuming the water's there, so is it all an issue? I mean, I've had this question for years. This isn't a new question for me. I haven't understood this for 20 years. So it's like, but why? If the water is there, why can't you put it in? Why do you care if it's imported water or recycled water? And I've never had an answer. And it's just a rhetorical question. I don't know if you don't have the answer, but I just get so frustrated. And if I could understand it, it'd be nice, but.
I can share with you my perspective offline as far as the dealings that I had with them at the Alamitos barrier. Well, I was at WRD,
Mhm.
and I think I can fairly confidently represent their concerns as they were represented to us. So I won't take the time.
Okay. Thank you. Keep going. Sorry for the interruption.
So if there's no more question with regard to productions, then I will turn it over to Jeremiah for the rest of the presentation. So but we'll first go over the energy and pump programs that we just brought to the board a couple months ago. So we'll go over the pumps that we're gonna be rehabbing to help us to get to a high reliability to ensure our berry production will continue. So go ahead, Jeremiah.
Thanks. Yeah, this is a good slide to be on. So this is our quarterly asset management update at the E&O committee. And so we will be getting to our general asset management KPI tracking metrics right after this. But our special topic for this month was revisiting the SoCal Edison energy efficiency rebate programs that West Basin staff has been participating in these last few months. I believe we came in December and gave an update on some of the efforts we're pursuing. And the number one project we are working with the consultants on is this pump, high service pump R&R project, specifically at the ECL Edward C. Little Water Recycling Facility. And so this chart here shows 9 pumps that have been targeted by our energy efficiency consultants. These are pumps that were tested by SCE for West Basin a few years ago. And so our energy consultant has reviewed those test results and compared the pumps on their curves currently to where they were originally when they were first installed. And based on the difference between where the pumps are and where they were originally on the curve, that first row on this chart shows what the energy consultants are estimating our annual energy savings would be if we implemented an R&R project on each one of those pumps. And so going down vertically, you can see the names of all 9 pumps that we're looking at. These are high service pumps, meaning that they're usually running, if not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're part of a pump bank that would be rotated, and we have 2, 3, 4 pumps on out of 6 maybe at any given time. And so what we're really honing in on is the rebate opportunity offered by SoCal Edison and then also the estimated energy savings that what the West Basin would achieve by implementing these pump overhauls. So by performing rehab to the pump bowls themselves, trimming the impeller, improving the pump's actual efficiency per unit of energy input into it. And so combining both the SCE rebate amount and the annual energy savings for these rebates, we've arrived at a simple payback period to help West Basin estimate when we would break even if we were to implement each of those pump projects at the estimated pump costs. So we have an overall estimated pump rehab cost for each of those pumps. And staff would just mention those are high-end estimates. They're very conservative. In our experience with pump repairs at ECL, we would expect the cost for the repairs of these pumps to be slightly lower than that, just based on the costs we've seen in the past couple of years with our pump and motor contractors. So there may be additional cost savings beyond what this chart's showing. And so over the next about year and a half through the end of 2027, we will be systematically going through which pumps we can pull, repair, and then put back into service. And any pumps that we do successfully repair, we'll be monitoring the energy use from that pump afterwards to verify that the rehab did achieve what it was aiming for. And SoCal Edison would then reimburse West Basin for those costs of the pump rehab projects. And so I think the good news here is that if West Basin does eventually pursue all 9 of these pump rehabs, we would be looking at a 2.18 year payback period. So within less than 3 years, we would have recouped all the costs from the SCE rebates and the savings from using less energy at ECL. You'll see some of these pumps have even faster payback periods. Some of our large pumps, like the Title 22 Tank 1, Pump 6, it's kind of in the middle of the chart there, as a 1.19 year payback period. So by rehabbing that pump, we would be saving money or making money within a year and a half, coming in the green there. So it's our goal right now is to prioritize pulling these pumps in an efficient manner where we don't interrupt operations. As I mentioned, some of these are part of a pump bank where we can pull one pump and we do have redundancy. There are some other pumps like the RO feed pumps where it's one pump dedicated to one RO unit in line. And so it would take some coordination with the operator of Jacobs to make sure we have sufficient RO production with that pump out of service for a few months. So we'll be looking at scheduling these rehab projects over the next few months, and we'll be reporting back to the board as each one is completed. This funding is included in our general pump R&R rehab budget for both fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27. So staff is proactively budgeting for these pump overhauls. And as far as the update to the board this month, on the next slide, we have.
Before you move
I'm sorry,
on,
go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure there's an archaic answer. If we're no longer buying power from SCE, why do we continue to qualify? Or at what point will SCE say we don't qualify for their,
That's an excellent question. And I know Jason had a ton of really good slides. On one of his slides, he showed our energy bill sliced up. And one of those slices is the PPP, the public purpose program fee that we pay to SCE regardless of if we're using their generation or not. So we're paying into these programs as an SCE customer in a sense still. And so that makes us eligible for these rebate funding. So even if we are going through a direct energy program, we continue to pay that PPP fee every month to SCE.
thank you.
On the next slide, the major update for this month is that our energy consultants have submitted the application packages to Edison for all 9 of these pumps, and they came on site in March to do the pre-verification inspection. So they come out, take pictures of the pumps, verify that they're actually being used, that they're the same size that we're saying they are. And so we had a number of consultants and members from SoCal Edison visit the plant, take down the information, and we're moving along on the program. And we've received approval. We're waiting to receive the final approval to move forward with these overhauls. But all the applications have been submitted, and we're looking to schedule them and move forward very soon. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions?
No questions?
No questions.
Slide. And so now we're getting into our normal quarterly asset management update. On the next slide, please. These are some of the asset management key performance indicators that West Basin has been tracking for some time now. These include what we call the CM to PM ratio, or the ratio of corrective maintenance to preventative maintenance that's being done at our facilities. As a guide, being under 20% of CM to PM ratio is a good sign, meaning that you are essentially spending more time preventing issues than you are chasing them and correcting them by measure of total work orders that are written. And so for the past 3 months, we've seen about 13%, 14.2%, and 14.1% of work orders being dedicated to corrective maintenance. So we're underneath that 20% metric. On the right-hand side, we also track just the number and the percentage of emergency work orders. Those are work orders that staff need to respond to in less than 24 hours. By keeping an eye on this metric, we see if there's critical failures happening or any uptick in failures or maintenance that we should pay attention to. On the next slide. Other metrics that we're tracking are the hours that staff spent performing preventative maintenance. And so that's the chart on the left there. There was a bit of a drop the past 3 months. It seems that we're uptick in corrective maintenance hours and somewhat of a decrease in preventative maintenance based on this charts. I will say that currently Jacobs is working on what they call PM validation efforts. So their maintenance team, all of the preventative maintenance work orders that are in the system, they're comparing them to the O&M manuals of all the equipment out in the field and confirming if it's the appropriate preventive maintenance schedule for all of those things. So we are seeing some tweaks to the number of hours that might be assigned to, like, changing out a tube. You know, there might have been a work order that said, hey, that takes an hour. In reality, it might only take 30 minutes. And so they're trying to tweak and fine tune how much staff time they dedicate to those work orders so we can more accurately track these metrics. And I believe at the next quarterly presentation for these asset management KPIs, we will have additional key performance indicators tied directly to the Jacobs contract that they will be providing to West Basin and that we'll be tracking moving forward. So it will include the CM to PM ratio, in addition to some other metrics such as time between failures and other things tied directly to their contract that they're supposed to be monitoring for us. So you may see this format changing in the next time we present it, but we have been trying to carry forward all the historic data we have for maintenance moving forward. We'll try to blend those two to show the board how Jacob's been improving our maintenance program next time. If there's any questions about our maintenance metrics, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we have some maintenance photos to look at. Next slide. So we are proactively, as part of our asset management program, trying to do predictive maintenance where we try to diagnose problems before they happen as opposed to reacting to them. And so in February 2026, we did have a third-party contractor offer us a free service to inspect all of our mixer equipment at the ECL facility. As you can imagine, we have a lot of large tanks that have mixers where we mix chemicals and all sorts of liquid. And so the contractor consultant came out for free, did an assessment of all of our mixers, not even just their mixers, because this is one brand that we have all over the plant, but they assessed all of our mixers and we got a report with the findings so it could help us address any issues. And I will say that pump in the middle there, that mixer, he did flag that motor is really hot while we were out there. So he has his infrared gun. He's letting the guys know, hey, you should look at this right away. And so we got some valuable insight just from him being on site that one day. Next slide, please. Some other preventative and predictive maintenance we're trying to do at the plant involves, similarly with the heat, these infrared inspections. So these are regular inspections that are scheduled on our electrical equipment, where we hire a thermographer to come out, take infrared images of all the electrical cabinets once they've been opened up. And then they can provide a report saying if there's any issues where there's contacts that are hotter than would be expected. And so we were offered a fantastic opportunity this last month in March. Aqua JPIA is West Basin's insurance provider. They offered us this service for free, actually. So they contracted with an infrared inspection company. They let West Basin know they were available on a date, and at no cost to West Basin, we had almost all of our critical electrical equipment scanned in one day, and we have a report in our system, and it's very valuable to make sure we're following up. And
Is this part of their regular service? Because we're there.
yeah, I believe Aqua does offer these services to their members quite regularly, but in the past, I think the contract operator would have had to reach out and schedule these and pay for these. So we kind of got
We save money this time. Yeah.
help from our insurance provider. So those were performed in March, and that was a great service they provided. Next slide. As far as the Jacobs maintenance team, some of the big work they've been doing out in the field involves repairing some mixers for our EQ basin. So a couple of these mixers have been broken, and we've had seen solids accumulate inside of the EQ basin, which was interrupting our process. And so in order to keep the solids in solution, we need these mixers working. And so Jacobs regional team did pull the mixer and replaced it, and we have a new mixer in the EQ basin there at ECL. Next slide. Some other maintenance that took place over the past 3 months. This is at the Chevron nitrification treatment plant. We have a potable water line that's used as an emergency fill option for our product tank. So you can see in the image on the left, there had been a leak on that potable water line. So the maintenance team had to go up there, put a clamp on there and repair that. And so in the future, if there's any outage at Chevron nitrified treatment plant, this is our kind of our backup supply to fill that tank temporarily. So it's critical that we keep this pipe functional. Next slide, please. And finally, looking at Torrance facility, the Jacobs maintenance team in February 2026, they performed some work replacing the microfiltration system's filtrate caps and also spent time calibrating the valve for the filtrate valve. And these images are shown here. You can see the mechanical technicians getting the valve installed and making sure it's operating correctly with the new filtrate caps installed. And I believe that concludes the maintenance update for this quarter. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, and with that, I think that we're at the end of our agenda. Any director's comments?
Yes, I just wanted to say, all the presentations, great job to staff. I like all the savings. And, you know, thinking out of the box with the, insurance thing covering those savings. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You never think about those things until it's, there's an opportunity, for savings, especially when it comes to construction. Yeah, very lucky. Yeah. Well, great job.
Mr. Deere, anything? All right, well, thank you, everybody, for a very fruitful meeting, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.